There was a man named Julian who had $23 million on a Tuesday and nothing by Friday. A bad investment. A trusted partner who wasn't trustworthy. A series of financial decisions that looked brilliant until they didn't. In 72 hours, everything he'd spent 20 years building evaporated like morning fog, leaving him standing in the wreckage of a life built entirely on zeros in a bank account. Julian was 51 years old and had spent 3 decades defining success by a single metric. Money. He'd sacrificed his marriage for it. His wife had left after 15 years of coming second to conference calls and networking dinners. He'd missed his daughter's childhood for it. She was 22 now and they spoke maybe twice a year. Polite strangers connected only by biology and old photographs. He'd traded friendships for business relationships, passion for profit, presence for productivity. He had a penthouse he was never in, a car collection he didn't drive, art on walls he never looked at. He had everything money could buy and nothing it couldn't. And now, he had nothing at all. The first week after losing everything, Julian waited to feel destroyed. Waited for the panic, the despair, the complete collapse everyone said was coming. But what came instead was something unexpected relief. Like he'd been carrying a weight so long he'd forgotten what it felt like to put it down. Without money to manage, meetings to attend, investments to monitor, Julian had something he hadn't had in 20 years. Time. Empty. Terrifying. Infinite time. He didn't know what to do with it. So he walked. Not to anywhere specific, just walked through a city like a tourist, noticing things he'd driven past for decades without seeing. A bookstore with a cat sleeping in the window. A park where old men played chess. A cafe where the owner knew everyone's name. He started going to that cafe. Bought coffee with a few $100s he had left. Sat for hours with nowhere to be. Nothing to achieve, no one to impress. And slowly, people started talking to him, not networking. Just talking about their lives, their struggles, their small joys, real conversations that went nowhere except deeper into human connection. A retired teacher named Helen sat with him one morning. She'd noticed him there every day, looking lost. She asked if he was okay, and Julian, who hadn't been honest with anyone in years, told her the truth. He'd lost everything. His money, his business, his identity. He didn't know who he was without the wealth that had defined him. Helen smiled with the wisdom of someone who'd lived through her own losses. She told him about her husband who died 5 years ago. How she'd thought losing him meant losing everything. How she'd discovered that everything was just one thing, and beneath that one thing was a whole life she'd forgotten existed. She said that poverty is having nothing, but wealth is needing nothing. And most rich people are the poorest people she knew because they needed so much to feel okay. Need that status validation. More and more money to fill holes. That money made bigger, not smaller. Julian thought about that for days, about what he actually needed. Food. Shelter. Connection. Purpose. He had the first 2. Barely, but the last 2, the ones he'd neglected for 20 years while chasing millions, those were suddenly available in ways they'd never been when he was rich. He started volunteering at a community center, teaching kids basic financial literacy. The irony wasn't lost on him. Teaching money management after losing everything. But the kids didn't care about his failure. They just cared that someone showed up. His daughter called. She'd heard about his financial collapse through family. Called to check on him, expecting to find him broken. Instead, she found him different. Present, actually listening when she spoke instead of half paying attention while checking his phone. They talked for 2 hours, reality talk. For the first time in her adult life, she visited the next month. Sat with him in his tiny studio apartment that fit in the closet of his old penthouse, and she said something that broke him open. She said she liked this version of her father better. The broke one, the one who had time for her, the one who wasn't too important for a phone call or too busy for dinner. Julian realized that night that he'd spent 20 years getting rich and losing everything that made life worth living. And now, with nothing in his bank account, he was finding wealth he hadn't known existed. 6 months after losing his millions, Julian had a job as a financial advisor for low-income families, made $40,000 a year, lived in a small apartment with furniture from thrift stores, had dinner with his daughter every week, had coffee with Helen and the others from the cafe who'd become actual friends, Not contacts or connections or networking opportunities, and he was wealthier than he'd ever been at 23 million. Because wealth isn't what you have. It's what you don't need. It's having people who care if you're okay, not just what you can do for them. It's having time to watch sunsets, conversations that go nowhere productive, moments that create no value except the value of being alive and paying attention. Hear us. What losing everything teaches you. Money is the easiest thing to acquire and the emptiest thing to possess. You can have millions and be bankrupt in every way that matters. Or you can have nothing and be richer than people with private jets and summer homes. The question isn't how much you have, it's what you're trading for it. Are you trading time with people you love for time making money? Trading presence for productivity? Trading connection for achievement? Trading your life for the lifestyle you think will make your life worth living. Julian lost $23 million, but he found his daughter, found real friendship, found purpose beyond profit, found out who he was when success couldn't define him, found a version of himself that had been buried under wealth so deep he'd forgotten it existed, losing everything stripped away, everything that didn't matter. And what remained was everything that did. You might not lose your fortune, but you're losing something more valuable every day you chase wealth at the expense of richness. Every dinner you miss for overtime, every conversation you cut short for work, every moment you sacrifice for money you'll never have enough of. Real wealth is having enough time, enough presence, enough connection, enough purpose, enough of what money can't buy and loss can't take. Julian learned it the hard way. You don't have to. The richest life isn't the one with the most. It's the one that needs the least and loves the most.